Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. It's Madeline Chassel. I'm the SBI Policy Director, and we are on the conference call on the future of the secular movement. We meet monthly via phone and web. If you are joining me on the web, I will be able to share chat information with you in the chat window. And to mute and unmute yourself, you'll be able to click the microphone button. If you're joining us on the phone only, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. I often mute all callers to control sound, and the only way then to speak up would be to press *6. If you have any issues with that and you're on the web, you can always reach me in the chat window, but to speak up, the key is *6. So moving right along, we are on our February call, and you should have joined us by following this link that you'll see here. If you're on the web, we're at secularpolicyinstitute.net/conference call on the future of the secular movement. And you can always find our recent calls by going to that web page and clicking under the most recent call button. On this month's agenda, I want to quickly highlight our International Hotspot of the Month. We always highlight one advocacy campaign, which can be found under the Coalition tab of our website. And once we do that, I'd like to move right into our guest speakers. We've put them at the front of the agenda today. But this hotspot this month is on Saudi Arabia. It was sent to Barack Obama and also to the Honorable John Kerry, Secretary of State. And you can read it here. I won't bore you with a reading of it. But we are on top of the Human Rights Watch and on top of Saudi Arabia, who's been executing a number of people. I'm going to mute the line now for one moment because I'm getting some feedback here. There we go. And I would like to see if we have Rumana Hashem with us already to move into our project and member spotlight. Rumana, are you with us today? Oh, and again, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. Perhaps I should, hello?
Yes?
Yes, is this Rumana?
Yes, I'm Rumana. I'm online on the phone.
Hi, it's wonderful to have you here. I would love you to give us your spotlight for today.
Oh, thank you. Are you Madeline, yeah?
Yes.
Shall I just go on to talk?
Yes, of course.
Okay, hi. Well, I think, I don't know, this is the first time for me to be in this meeting on call. I am, if the line goes off for everybody, please do know that I will be ringing back in a minute, okay? Because I'm not sure if it is working fine.
That's fine.
My purpose, as I mentioned to Adriana previously, and with some other colleagues, is that talking about our endangered secularist and atheist bloggers back home in Bangladesh. I'm currently ringing from UK, but I'm going to speak about Bangladeshi bloggers who need our urgent support for relocation, because our agenda has now changed. Previously, we were asking the Bangladesh government to try and support and give protection to the endangered bloggers within Bangladesh, but we have now seen that by trying to create pressure on Bangladesh government, we are getting ourselves into danger. Many of you would know that a number of us have been promoted into the hit list automatically by trying to rescue the bloggers. So now what we are looking for is that if our secularist campaigners, international communities are really kind and willing to support those bloggers just to live in a safe home, then we would be very grateful. Some of them, as you would know already, that some of them have been safely relocated in various countries. I won't mention the name of the countries for the safety reasons, but others are stuck in some South Asian countries, including Bangladesh. I won't be able to mention the names, but at present I'm desperately looking for two or one host either in Sweden or Netherlands or UK. Well, UK, I'm based in UK, but we tried and we couldn't really find the right kind of host to relocate any of the bloggers because of the ridiculous asylum policy in the UK at the moment. So I was speaking with the SPI director a few days ago, Edwana, who told me that I should call in here for two hosts or just one host can just send us, if kindly can send us two invitation letters for two endangered bloggers. One is a senior person. He's around age 43, 44. He's got two children, two twin daughters. One of the daughter is living with his mother. One is staying with his wife. But he is currently in a South Asian country that I won't mention the name of the country. He is looking for a single visa just for himself, and because he already got accepted by the ICON, but ICON, as you know, is where the process in ICON is a very slow process. Marianne Habdon has written last time, a few weeks ago, to me that she still doesn't know when he would be relocated, but that's really, making it all uncertain. So we have currently got some sort of assurance from the Swedish embassy that they would be able to approve visa for this person. And also we have got some sort of assurance for funding sponsorship. But our problem currently is that we don't have a host organization in Sweden. This other person is a undergraduate student. She is a third-year student. She's studying physics. She has now stopped studying because she was already kidnapped a few years ago, and her left wrist was slipped off by a group of unknown cadres. We don't know if they are Islamists or somebody else. I won't blame anybody, but she has been watched, and since then she was never been feeling safe. So currently she's staying with her parents. She left the university because she does not have any safety. She is still writing, but in an anonymous name. But we that even though she's writing in anonymous name, she writes in Bangla. We believe that they have managed to identify her because she often writes to me that she was followed from the marketplace or so on. So that is very, very, very urgent that she really needs to move in. She applied in between in the shelter city in Netherlands, but her application was rejected. The same happened to the other blogger for whom I'm speaking now. So I think I have spoken enough, and I just want to say that if any of you in this meeting or beyond this meeting would be willing to either to host or to give us more information, would you please kindly contact SPI or Madeline or Edwana, and they will surely put you in touch with me. And I'll be very happy to give more information in person. But in an online meeting, I won't be able to give more information for safety reasons.
Rumana, thank you so much. This is such a prevalent and important issue right now, and we do need all the help that we can get. I'm hoping that if anyone has any questions for you, that they will do that now. And if Edwina wants to facilitate any questions at all. Edwina, are you with us?
Hi, Edwina. I don't know.
I don't know yet. We'll see. Remember to press *6 if you are there.
I'm here.
Yes, well, you're
Can
there.
You hear me?
Oh, there's Edwina. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
yeah, great.
Edwina.
So, hi. I want to let everybody know what we've tried in the U.S. So we have tried offering letters of invitation to people in Bangladesh to come and do briefings for members of Congress, to come for conferences and for meetings. And when they go to the embassy there in Bangladesh, the U.S. Embassy, there's just a local person who's processing the paper, and they'll say things like, oh, well, we know Secular Policy Institute, they bring people over and they never leave. But so those are very false statements because we've never brought anybody over anywhere except for American citizens to come as speakers. So we keep trying. We have written letters to the State Department, to immigration. We have even a recent response that is on our website saying that they've opened a case, and they gave us the case number. But the U.S. is one of the hardest places to get into. Now, if anyone can get here, if they end up in the U.S. somehow, they are certainly welcome to apply for asylum, and it looks really good at that point. But getting them here is the hard part. So we have been trying to help people get into other countries by doing introductions to local people. We even tried to get some of the females to apply to be au pairs, because there's an au pair system where you get a visa to come to the U.S., and we haven't had success there. I've even personally offered to take people. So we're hitting a lot of roadblocks with the U.S., but there are other countries that are much more accepting of refugees, religious refugees. Now, I know that our friends in Australia, the progressive atheists, they're taking up a little fund to help people once they get to another country so that they can buy food and pay for housing and things like that until they can get on to the country that they've got friends or family in. But as far as specifically how we can help you, can you just recap, give us the bottom line? Of course, referrals, money, things like that. But for Americans, it's harder for us to sponsor and get people into the U.S. is what we have found out for sure.
So is that the question for me, Edwina?
Yes, it's a question for you. Just specifically, okay. How can we help, since it's near impossible for us to sponsor and get people to the U.S.?
Right. One of the bloggers that I've been talking about, you know that you already, as you explained already, you have already sent an invitation letter 6 months ago, and that was turned down without any justified reason. You know that he applied, and then they just say that you won't come back. So because of this reason, for both, US and UK, we find it is quite problematic because of the way the approach that the embassies, local embassies, take to the bloggers. And because Bangladesh has now come into limelight, everybody knows that the bloggers are trying to be relocated. So I'm not sure what to suggest here, other than saying that we can only hope that we find the visa. Basically for US and UK visas, in my experience in the last 1 year, I have understood that the main problem is that we don't have people within the embassy. So like I have managed to get one blogger in Germany a few months back, and that time I spoke to the ambassador myself directly. I rang in the embassy, local embassy in Germany. So what happens in UK and US case, that we don't know anybody within the embassy who would be able to help. For example, in Swedish embassy, we know that there are people who said that if we find a host, they would be trying to approve the visa. Other than that, in terms of sponsorship, for these two people that I've been talking, we have got some sort of assurance. I personally haven't spoken, but I know that our friend Rafida Bonna, she is doing this bit, that we, in conjunction with Michael D. Dora, the CFI person, they have said that they would be willing to sponsor. So our main question is that whether there would be any particular organization who would be willing to take on the load, because mainly, even if somebody else is sponsoring, it doesn't matter how much money you are giving. Initially, you can just do a 2 months or 1 month or 3 months sponsorship. but main problem is normally the embassy. So unless we have people within, standing by for our bloggers within the local embassy or in U.S., home office, I don't really know what to suggest, because in my experience, I have even tried. There were times that I felt really like devaluing myself, that I'm ringing up and people are not taking us seriously,
Yes. Well, I have a few ideas. Okay, so we have about 305 member groups in the coalition, and they're all around the world. They're not just in the U.S. They're about 190 in the U.S. So there are people that have been invited to this call that are in other countries. And I know that we have a group, we have a gentleman in Italy who is working to try to get invitations there in Italy. But we can go and meet with the State Department. I think you're right. If you do in-person meetings and you get to know people with the government, then your chances are much better. So we will try that as our next step here in the U.S. And then, of course, we will continue to encourage groups around the world to help. Now, you might not know, but we have produced a list of secular groups around the world. It's on our website. I think there are about 6,834 that we have found around the world, and there could be others in Sweden and other countries that perhaps you don't know about that we can reach out to. I had just contacted our one fellow because he's a fellow there, and then he hooked us up, with a local group. But so there are many other groups that we can contact through that database that we put together through web scraping. Okay, so those are some of the things that. So we'll work on getting the meeting with the Bangladeshi desk officer at the Department of State here in Washington and see if we can get a relationship back to the embassy in Bangladesh.
One another problem in UK and US is that they don't take any applications seriously unless the candidate has completed an IELTS or sort of like GMAT sort of courses. But because our bloggers had to leave their home, either they had to internally relocate it or they have moved in one of the South Asian countries. So they cannot actually get any sort of English language course now. And most of them were writing in Bengali. So the two person I'm speaking now about, they both are very kind of like not very fluent in English. So that stands as another problem in the visa office. That's why we have started to find sponsors and hosts outside UK and US, because the other countries are not as strict as UK and US in terms of language. I'm sorry to say, but it sounds really, we are still living in colonial age, but it is really ridiculous in both in US and UK embassy. So that's why I'm speaking for Sweden or Netherlands or Germany. And money-wise, the blogger who moved in Germany a few months ago, for him, I have shown sort of £8,000 for a year. So it was not very bad. £8,000 for a year was not very difficult for us to show. And then the Amnesty International has sponsored his wife, for whom we have shown only £6,000 for a year. So altogether, it was 14,000, not pounds, euro, that we have shown as a sponsor.
Great.
So this is Madeline. I've been able to distill the last few minutes of the conversation. I'm going to share that here in the chat window for those of you online. And I want to just recap, as Edwina suggested, the 4 brainstormed steps that we can take or work on together to approach this problem. And one is that we're trying to find people within the U.S. Embassy, in our case, or any embassies that you may all be in touch with internationally around this call. In particular, Edwina suggested that we set up a meeting with the Bangladeshi desk officer in the State Department, in the U.S. State Department. So that's something we can definitely work on. And number 2, we've been talking about the monetary load of sponsorship, and we need to find people to step up, or organizations that are willing to take on this monetary load, which, as you suggested, Rumana, is not necessarily that much money. We just need those that are willing. So as a caveat to that, we need to encourage groups around the world to help, and we can certainly do that through our network of our coalition at SPI. And number 4, we also want to be aware that there is, as you mentioned, this language bias that might be getting in the way at different embassies. And so we want to try and target those countries that are maybe a little less biased, who would be more open to sponsoring or providing asylum to these authors and others. So I hope that helps. And again, I've shared that with us in the chat window. I thank you so much for your time, Rumana, and I will leave another moment. I think Ugo mentioned he might want to say something or something to contribute to this topic. So Ugo, or anyone else who wants to unmute themselves now and either ask a question or add a thought to this conversation, please do so.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hi, everybody. This is Hugo. Yeah, I've been following this case for some months and trying to find a way to bring them into Europe. And I've been informed by people from the European Humanist Federation that they are also working on this. So the idea was to work together in from different countries in Europe, so as not to bring the whole group into one country, but try to distribute them all over the place. Especially with the refugee crisis we are going through now, it's quite problematic. So it's really the worst of the times to bring more people in. But last week, one of the Italian delegates to the European Humanist Federation took over all the info from me and was going to meet some people at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in order to see what are the chances to bring them here. The second question would be, well, first thing to do is to save their lives, so to take them out of Bangladesh. But secondly, what do we do? What are these people going to do here? So that's the second major issue to deal with. How are we going to support them? How are they going to get integrated into this so different society, and what are they going to do for a living? Because we can support them or get some support for some months, but then the follow-up is going to be also problematic, and we have to consider that before making further steps. In any case, I am positive that the situation will evolve quite soon because of the people that are taking this up. So is IAGU doing as far as I know. So it's a whole group of people trying to bring them out of Bangladesh. But what I wanted to say is that, okay, we are now certain that this is going to happen, and not in the long term. But especially because Europe is easier than the US to bring them from home. But how can we support them to get a job or to do something after that, and to make a living in these other countries? That is something that we should also take into consideration. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ugo. I do have a question from George G. for Rumana, and I guess for Edwina also, about the group or the individuals having consulted with a U.S. immigration attorney, if that's happened at any stage. He's wondering if that's happened or could happen.
Not that I know of, but perhaps Edwina would be able to say more, because I haven't followed on that after that U.S. rejection, because the rejection was really nasty rejection, and I didn't want to follow on that anymore. I will really, I'm so sorry. I will have to apologize to everybody. I have a conference in the House of Commons and I really have to shoot off. I'll leave it all to Edwina if it is okay, Madeline. Is that okay?
Of course, Rumana. Thank you for your time.
I'm so sorry and thank you so very much for allowing me to speak.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, hi, it's Edwina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, no, we have consulted immigration attorneys and we have consulted immigration service and we have a formal request in with them and we have a case number and we've done a lot of research and we have all the laws on our website. But basically, the U.S. doesn't really take refugees, religious refugees. If you are in the U.S. and you feel like you're a religious refugee, then you can apply for citizenship that way. But to get here, just based on that, is not something that the U.S. is currently taking people for. Is the problem. On a very limited basis, it's like a 2-year application process with all kinds of proof that your life has been threatened, and nobody really has time to go through all that is the problem. So because of that, the U.S. is a good place if you happen to be here. If you somehow got here and you were here for some other reason, and then you wanted to apply, then your chances are very good. As a matter of fact, we've done affidavits for people who are here from Pakistan or other countries that they don't want to go back because they're atheists, and that's not a problem. But initially getting here because of that is a problem.
That makes sense, I think. And George, if you have any further questions or if anyone does, they can always reach me in the chat window. I want to finish up this topic by alerting those who are present online to the link that I shared in the chat window. It's also available on your screen now. It's the progressiveatheist.org website, which has information about a secular bloggers in Bangladesh fund. And of course, I'm sure financial help in any form is much appreciated. So that's a link that you can follow from the agenda and get more information on this other website, progressiveatheist.org. Well, thank you for our dedication to that first very important topic. I do want to see if we have Jason Frye here as well. And Frye is going to speak to us about Girls Not Brides. Jason, are you here? Remember to click the microphone button if you're online or press *6 to unmute yourself on the phone. I see that we have Jason. So Jason, just click that microphone button next to your name. There you are, I think. Yes, you'll be with us in a second. It looks like it's just loading. It's not connecting. All right, let me give it a shot here, Jason. Hold on. I've just unmuted you from my end, so now we can hear you. Hello, Jason.
Hi, how is everyone?
Good, thank you for joining us. Talk to us, please.
So, I've been doing a series of projects for the SPI. I've been doing some research and writing some letters, and I want to let you guys know about an issue that led me to learn about this wonderful organization, Girls Not Brides. And it happened recently in Pakistan. What happened, it started back in 1929, back when it was British India, back before the partition. And one of the founders of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, came out with this law, the Child Marriage Restraint Act, which raised the minimum age for marriage for girls to 16, boys to 18. And recently, a member of the majority party in the National Assembly, the Pakistan Muslim League, her name is Marvi Maman, she wanted to change the law a little bit. She thought that if the minimum age for boys is 18, the minimum age for girls should be 18 as well. And she wanted to increase the penalties for people solemnizing marriage for girls under the age of 18. However, in Pakistan, in I believe it was 1967, there was an advisory council. Sorry, it was 1962. There was an advisory council that was put into place called the Council on Islamic Ideology. They don't have any strong legal authority. They just act in an advisory capacity, and they work to get this law shut down. And unfortunately, Assemblywoman Marvi Maman removed her bill. And this is a major problem. And in this, I started looking into issues of child marriage around the globe. And there's an organization that puts out publications, it does research, and it's actively engaged in trying to end child marriage. To look at the issue a little bit further, the UN considers child marriage forced marriage because at least one of the spouses cannot give complete and informed consent. This issue, looking at it around the planet, a lot of people think that it's exclusively founded in religion. It's not. It is endemic mostly to poor and rural areas. For example, in Pakistan itself, 48.9% of girls in the poorest communities are entered into forced marriages, and 9.9% of the most affluent are. Around the planet, according to UNICEF and Girls Not Brides, 1/3 of girls in developing countries under the age of 18 are married off every year. That turns out to be around 39,000 a day, and they estimate, both UNICEF and Girls Not Brides working together, estimate that over the course of this decade, between 50 through 140 million girls under the age of 15 will be married off. And as I was talking about religion a moment ago, this is not exclusively an aspect of religion, and this is not exclusive in Muslim countries. Niger has the greatest rates of this at 76% of girls under the age of 18, and Niger's about 50-50 in terms of Islam and Christianity. The Central African Republic is next in line at 68%, and they're about 80% Christian. And then it goes around the planet, in countries like Honduras and Brazil, which don't have Muslim majority populations, have rampant child marriage as well. What the UN says about this is they're rather staunchly against this, as they should be, in that child marriage robs girls and boys, but mostly girls, it's disproportionately girls, of social, personal, and economic development. They say that it's one of the leading causes of systematic and enduring poverty. And when it comes into play with religion, that makes it more difficult to take on, because a lot of countries that either legally sanction this or don't necessarily go after it as a cultural practice often justify it in religious culture and religious texts. To get back to Pakistan, for example, the Council on Islamic Ideology came out, where's that quote? The Council on Islamic
We may have lost Jason here. Let's see. Jason, are you there? Something might be wrong with the connection. I'm hoping.
should be eligible for
Hi.
marriage.
Oh,
Hello?
Jason, we lost you there for a minute. Do you mind recapping?
So, Madeline, I can pick up if Edwina until Jason gets back in and can wrap up. Yeah, so Jason has put together a letter about this, and we're going to be sending it out next week to the coalition for everyone to sign. And he also has brought to us the application for this fine organization, Girls Not Brides. And so there's a link in the agenda today for other groups that could consider joining it. It's they're a coalition, and organizations are members, not individuals, but individuals can sign up as supporters. And so this is something that we're working on for sure, and it's something that I am personally close to. I went to Yemen a number of years ago to write an article about two child brides, of which one was 9 and one was 10 years old in Yemen. Basically, their parents sold them to much older men, and then they were promptly beaten. The 10-year-old turned up at a judge's house, begging to be able to get a divorce, and was able finally to get one. And I had a nanny that was a child bride from Pakistan, and her parents sold her when she was 12 and married her off to a 60-year-old who had American citizenship, who was Pakistani, and brought her to the U.S. So when she became my nanny, she was like 19 or 20, and had like a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old already, and was trying to get away from him in the situation and get a divorce. And so I was able to get lawyers and get her a divorce and get her on her way. So we know this does happen, and a number of the brides end up here in the U.S. So it's something that we want everybody to be aware of. So Jason, have you been able to make it back?
I believe so. I apologize. I have AT&T, and so for those who know about AT&T and iPhones, they typically drop. And then I'm trying to be on Cox Internet because AT&T fails, but Cox is failing as well. But yeah, to recap and to draw this together, the problems become more compounded because religion and religious law get involved, and it gets even more complicated because this isn't the reasons that parents will marry off their children are diverse. For example, in developing countries, parents will often think that they are securing their daughters' futures by marrying them to a stable older man. Other times, parents feel that they're basically getting rid of one more mouth to feed, or they use child marriage to settle disputes. And this is a serious problem around the globe. There's a half dozen UN conventions on this matter. So in 2007, a group of influential world leaders and thinkers who call themselves the Elders, started by Nelson Mandela, came together, and in 2011, they initiated Girls Not Brides. Girls Not Brides has more than 550 civil society organizations. As Edwina said, organizations can become members, but individuals can become supporters. And their goal is to work together to end child marriage. And as Edwina has said, the link has been posted. You guys should take a look at that. I think the SPI should certainly get involved with this because this is right up our alley, because we're a human rights organization. And like I was saying, a lot of these particular situations, if not with the government being complicit as a cultural practice, sanction it as a legal thing to do because it's written in established religious law. And yeah, so are there any questions on this?
Jason, I have shared the application on our screen share, and I also want to share the link to that application in our chat window if I can. I'm going to do that now. Does anyone have any questions for Jason?
Thank you, Jason. Fascinating. And we have the application, and I'm going to get right on it, okay?
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I love that we got our guest speakers, 2 of them anyway, right at the top of our agenda today. We are going to hear a little bit more from Hugo in a few minutes. But I want to alert your attention back to the agenda for a quick SPI overview. Edwina, is there anything you want to highlight from our normal overview this month?
Yes, so we've got a couple letters. In fact, we have 3 letters out right now. 2 are U.S. only, and 1 is international. But we have another international issue that will be coming out with next week. It has to do with the Zika virus, that the mosquitoes are spreading around the Americas. And the problem that has been uncovered there, especially in Central America, where a number of countries have such strict laws against abortion that they have women in prison. They're imprisoning women who have had miscarriages and for 40 years. And El Salvador is one, and not as bad, but also things like that are happening in Guatemala. And because of this virus now, doctors are recommending that women who have been exposed, who were pregnant, to terminate the pregnancy because there's an extremely high risk of major brain damage and birth defects. So the whole abortion issue in Latin America is now coming to the forefront. And I know we've got Hugo on the phone, who is an expert on Latin America, so perhaps he's been following this issue. But this will be a good time for us to inject ourselves and see what we can do about Catholicism and their imprint that has been left on Latin America with regard to women's reproductive rights. So that was the main thing that I wanted to point out. I know we don't have a lot of time left, so there's no reason to repeat what's in the agenda. We've got all the major events that are coming up. We have highlights on what the fellows have been doing over the last month. We've updated those, and we've got a summary of many of the advocacy letters. We also have some congressional briefings coming up later in February. We've got an expert coming to town on critical thinking, and we're going to go back and do a round on getting more critical thinking in the prison system, and also in higher education in elementary, middle school, and high school also. So that's basically my report. You might want to see if Hugo has something to add. I know he was planning on speaking today.
Good. That's exactly what I'd like to do, and Hugo seems ready. So Hugo, can you talk to us now about all these topics we've left in your corner?
Sure. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, since this problem with the mosquitoes and the Zika virus came up, it's been seen as a support in the struggle for women's rights in Latin America, which is, as a whole, the only continent in the world with no abortion laws, or with almost no abortion rights. In the case of Argentina and some other countries, it's accepted only in the case when there is danger for the mother's life or for the child's life or viability. So what I think, and what we've been discussing with people involved in the campaign for legalization of abortion in Latin America, is something that we could do from the Secular Policy Institute, is to send letters or to collect letters to aimed at two different organizations. One is the Pan American Health Organization, which is the regional World Health Organization for the Americas, which is usually very progressive in these aspects and promoting and very much attentive to women's rights and care for women's health. So if we promote this as something that has to do with the health of women, it's the way to bridge the gap between the Catholic denial of abortion and the Catholic lobby and the scientific approach to things. So One thing would be to address a letter to the Pan American Health Organization saying that we will be interested in the promotion, or we see that it's important to promote in the member states, within the member states, the legalization of abortion, at least in these cases. Because there are countries like Chile, no type of abortion is provided, it's considered. So it's important to work on that. And secondly, a letter to the ministries of health of each of the Latin American countries, in order to show our support for, or our interest in legal provisions to how to say, to allow women to go through checks and non-penalized abortions in case of infection of Zika virus.
This is Edwina. I like your thinking, and we can certainly do that. We've already started the research. I didn't think about the country-by-country research and the impact that that would have, but we can certainly pull that together and make country-specific letters and then send them out for every group to sign on, and also encourage them to do their own letter. And who better to go through than the ministers of health, who are the ones that the government should be relying on and leaning on for this type of information, and not the archbishops or the Pope or things like that. So that's excellent advice. So we'll make that our next big project.
Anyone?
Yeah, and don't forget.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Don't forget the Pan American Health Organization, which is very important, because in many countries it's the main supporter in economic terms of how to say, major policies, major health policies are supported and funded through the Pan American Health Organization, which is in Washington.
Yes, okay. And I didn't think about that. As a matter of fact, we have the initial draft of the letter ready, but we weren't sure who to send it to. So the main letter about the whole problem throughout Latin America, we will send there. And of course, we can still also do a letter to President Obama, the White House, State Department, because they also give a lot of funding. They're also dealing with the virus, the CDC. We already have one case here in the U.S. And probably a letter to the WHO, the World Health Organization, Geneva. They have already called an emergency session about the virus and looking at trying to develop an immunization, which they're saying will take them 10 years at this point. So it looks like the problem is going to be with us for a while. So Pan American Health Organization, probably WHO, some country-specific letters, and then, of course, even one to the State Department and the White House. That's what we'll work on.
Does anyone else have any questions for Hugo?
That's me again. I would be very careful with writing to Obama, because if the United States promote this in Latin American countries, there will be immediate reaction saying, why are the Americans telling us what to do? This is again imperialism, trying to decide on our women, on the bellies of our women, blah, blah, blah. So it would be probably the contrary effect. I would be very, very careful with Latin American nationalism in terms of the relationship with the U.S.
Yes, I forgot about the American imperialism problem. So that's good advice.
That is great advice.
We'll hold off on that letter. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. I do want to see, since we have a little time left, if Johnny Montserrat is available, our Alliance Director. I know that he usually has wonderful information for us about his goings on. Johnny, are you there?
I don't think Johnny is with us today. I know he's putting together a website for one of the member organizations.
All right, wonderful.
But yeah, the only thing new in that corner is we're developing the listserv so that secular leaders around the world can speak to each other about hot topics, like the Zika virus, and let people know things that are going on. That's a good way to get information. So we're still pulling that together and inviting everyone to join that particular, it's just a Google listserv. Because we use MailChimp, and if people hit reply, they only get me. They can't reply to all the other secular leaders, so that's why we're putting that together.
Great, and I am going to draw everyone's attention online to this topic, which is the Secular Leaders League. Is that correct? And we have a whole little snippet here about the two different groups, both a U.S. Secular Leaders League and a global. It's already started to be built. People have already started joining, but I know that Johnny is doing additional work to really get it off the ground. And I'm going to put that, I put that only to Hugo. Let me share that with everyone in the chat window now. Little snippet there. And again, if you're online, it's even better to just look at it on our website. But I will go ahead and open up the floor. We have a bunch of attendees here today. So if anyone has a topic that they'd like to bring to our attention, now is the time. We have some minutes left to the call. So if there's something on your mind that hasn't come up, please speak up now. Remember to *6 if you're on the phone, or click your microphone button. And if you're shy, that's okay. You can message me in the chat window and I'll bring it to the group's attention.
Madeline, hi, it's Edwina. So I'll take this opportunity to pitch everyone on the phone to sign on to the current 2 U.S. advocacy letters. One that we just sent out last night has to do with the problem in Alabama, where we have the Supreme Court Judge, Roy Moore, who ordered the probate judges in 67 counties in Alabama to not honor same-sex marriage. And so what we're asking there is for Loretta Lynch, the U.S. Attorney General, to open an ethics investigation into this judge and hopefully have him dismissed, which he had been dismissed previously for similar actions with his 10 Commandments sitting there in front of the Supreme Court. But he was able to get back in because he was elected. And then the other letter has to do with the problem with Title IX. It's specific for universities. And universities in the U.S. that are religiously affiliated, they still get a lot of government funding, and they are opting out of certain discrimination laws, and they have a big campaign now against transgender people and expelling them from the university, not allowing unisex restrooms and things like that. And there's been a big uptick in universities saying that they're not going to comply with those types of anti-discrimination laws. So those are the 2 domestic letters that we have right now. And the international letter, of course, has to do with the Saudi Arabia and I believe it was 47 people that they executed, including the Shia cleric that was from Iran that has created the snowball effect around the world of diplomacy between Iran and Saudi Arabia in other countries, and with Europe even ended up siding mainly with Iran because of what Saudi Arabia has done.
Well, one quick thing on that. Actually, he's not Iranian. He's Saudi. He's from the Eastern Province. And one thing that they did in Saudi Arabia, his nephew, who's 17, participated in a protest. In Saudi Arabia, what happens is if you protest the monarchy, this is Jason, by the way, if you protest the monarchy in any particular fashion, they will accuse you of the high crime of breaking allegiance with the ruler and sentence you to death. That's what Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr was convicted of, and he was sentenced in this big, massive 47 people. The majority of them were people who were convicted of terrorism, associating with Al-Qaeda, which that's not endorsing capital punishment in the least. But his 17-year-old nephew participated in a protest, and they convicted and condemned a minor to death. And Ali al-Nimr is still waiting for his fate, and yeah, this is a bad situation.
But he's a Shia cleric and not a Sunni. Isn't that the main problem? Okay. Yeah.
And the thing is, in Saudi Arabia, 15% of people in Saudi Arabia are Shiites. The dominant faith and the official sect of Islam is Sunnism. And in Saudi Arabia, Shiites don't have the same educational opportunities, economic opportunities, and they don't receive the same protection from the police, including abuse from the police when they go. And Sunnis don't necessarily have big shrines to holy saints at the level that Shiites do, and Shiites do more pilgrimages. And in that regard, the government cracks down on Shiites there. And what Nimr al-Nimr, Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr was saying is that if the government, specifically King Solomon before him, King Abdullah, would not recognize them as equal people, then they may have to start talks about a non-violent revolution. So that's what led to Nimr al-Nimr's execution. So he's calling for his rights of peaceable assembly, his rights of religious freedom, which are clearly indicated in the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And that makes this even more of a troubling situation.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Yeah, so we want more people to sign that letter. More groups.
And again, all of the letters can be found online on our website at the Advocacy Campaigns tab. I've shared that with you all, and I've also shown it on the screen. But I think that's it, unless anyone else wants to speak up. We are meeting again on the first Thursday of next month. That's March 3rd, I believe. And you'll get all of the agenda information in advance, and you'll be able to join us again. I look forward to it. Edwina, any final thoughts?
No, that's it. I think that's enough for us to. My list to do is quite long here. So, right. And Jason's also. It spills over to Jason. Good thing you're on the call.
Good thing.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Oh, Ugo, this is your last chance. What's your question?
Okay, hello.
Hello.
Just briefly, I've been in touch with Sanal Ramaruku for the Rationalist Conference. Are you going to be there, Edwina?
I'm going to be at the conference in Estonia. Is that the one you're asking about?
Yeah, the Rationalist International Conference, yes.
Yes, I'll be there. Yes, I'm speaking.
That's wonderful. And the other question was, how is the UN thing proceeding?
Oh, as far as our application?
Yes, exactly.
With the UN. Well, we're still working. I went to New York a few months ago, did some meetings, but you have to be in existence for 2 years. But you can attend things, but you're not part of the sort of official observer status until you're 2 years old, and we're 1 year and 2 months old.
Ooh.
Okay.
So we need to have our second birthday before we can become official. Yes.
In our terrible twos, we'll get our status.
Yes,
okay.
Official status. Yes. But we still certainly can participate, go to meetings and things like that. Yes.
Okay, great. And the last thing is, what about the IHU meeting in Valletta and the European Humanist Federation in Valletta? Are we going to participate there?
In Malta on May the 22nd?
Yeah.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I will be there.
Oh, great, great.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Because I was planning to go, so maybe we can we can discuss that on private. Perfect.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to. Let's discuss
Oh,
that. I mean, the more the better, so we should both go.
great.
But
Well,
thank you.
thank you.
All right, wonderful, everyone. We'll see you next month. Thanks so much for being here. Take care.